What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Tony Shen. I'm back with another FL Studio beat making video. You know what time it is. Today, I want to show you guys a plugin that I use very often that happens to be a stock plugin and has the most versatile uses and can get you like the most amazing sounding beats ever. Now, if you're more used to like making your own melodies and then just playing keys or just drawing in MIDI melodies, you might have not paid too much attention to the stock plugin. But if you're into adding samples to your beats, then this is a tool that will get you very far if you learn how to use it properly. Today, I'm going to make a video on Fruity Slicer. Now, I know a lot of my videos are based around creating your own melodies and then doing a lot of stuff from scratch and just playing in the notes yourself. So I kind of want to like give a little side-by-side comparison of like what's the benefits to creating your own melodies versus sampling. So I think the best part about using a sample is that you have access to sounds that you'll never be able to create by yourself. Like I can sit for hours in front of my computer with this like keyboard and try to come up with like a sample, like a vintage type sample or whatever type of sample I want to create. It'll never sound the same as like a band with years of experience playing together. You'll never be able to create that sound. But the downside to using samples is that it might be more of an investment in the long run, especially if an artist is trying to get it cleared. There might be issues trying to clear that sample in the future. But I'm telling you right now, like there's no way you can recreate the feeling of using a sample properly. And today I'm going to teach you how to use Fruity Slicer, as well as an online library called TrackLib that I use a lot where you can find these samples from. And basically I'm going to show you how to put together a beat, like mostly using those tools. So here's a sample. I'm just going to play it real quick just to see what we're working with. So we're going to chop that into a loop. To use Fruity Slicer, all you have to do is load it up into FL Studio. Every version should have it. It's like right here. And then before we actually load the sample into Fruity Slicer, what I want to do is actually chop it up into a loop because it's a lot easier to work with. So what I'm going to do is go to the sample and then Control E or Command E if you're on Mac, and then that opens up the Edison tool, and then it allows you to kind of like find a loop, right? So what you want to do is open up the loop tool so that it loops back to the beginning when it reaches the end, and then just find like an 8 or 4 bar or 16 bar loop that you can use. Okay, that sounds like it works. Now don't worry if like the timing is just a little bit off or that there's like a little clicky sound. I'm going to show you how Fruity Slicer we can compensate that problem. So what you can do now once you have your loop is drag it into Fruity Slicer and then set the tempo you want, right? So like the tempo is still synced to the main clock of FL Studio, so you do want to set a tempo that you want the beat to be around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, so I'm going to tap it out, right? So maybe like 126-ish. I think that's a pretty good tempo. Yep. So what we're going to do now is delete this because like you want to first slice it up, right? So what you want to do is, I like to slice it to beat, and then let's just hear what it sounds like right now. Oops, pattern mode. Pretty cool, right? As you can see, it's 16 beats, and the tempo is like 121. So what you can do is mess with the TS knob section, and then match it to like your current tempo now. So if you can see on the top left, if I'm dragging this, like you see like the tempo, right? So you want to drag it close to like the tempo you're working with right now. But if you want to like mess around with the timing and then play at like a slower tempo, then you can create like really cool effects, and you can create like syncopated rhythms and stuff like that if you just mess with the time stretch. Right? I like this vibe right now. And then like I was saying earlier, you might have certain clicks, and then you might have like some places that are a little off tempo. How you can fix that is to increase the attack time and then increase the decay time. So it kind of like if I pull up the attack time, as you can see on the slice, it kind of sounds like a little bit more choppy. It sounds like you're chopping the sample up a little more. And it eliminates some of the clicking. Next part is to play around with the pitch. Now if you pitch this down like 500 cents, that's where it gets interesting, guys. And then the best part is you can control which slices play through your piano roll, right? So like if you wanted to chop it up and just have a little fun with it, you know. Like if I wanted to repeat that last part. That could be cool, or you could just go back with the original. Okay, so that was pretty cool, right? And you have a pretty good solid layer to start out with, and good loop to build the rest of your beat around. Now what we're gonna do is do a little bit more creative chopping. This is more of just looping. Like you're using Fruity Slicer and some of the tools to make a better sounding loop, to pitch around some of the loops and mess around with some of the timing of each of the slices. But now let's do some creative chopping, right? Like some stuff where you're linking each slice like a keyboard, right? And you're slicing you're playing it almost like an instrument. Now, like I said earlier, I use TrackLib to find the sample that I'm using right now. And the good thing about TrackLib is that it tells you the key signature of your sample. So I know for a fact that originally this sample that I use right now is in D major, right? So what I can do if I'm also using TrackLib, or if I just know a sample that's in the same key, or you can literally just look up the key of your certain sample of you're using a song, you can just Google it and then it'll tell you the key most of the time. If you know the key of your song, then it's a lot easier to add over an existing melody there you know the key of, right? So this song, this is the second sample I'm going to use. I'm going to add on top of this sample, but I know that it's also in D major, so that I know that when I add it on top of it, it's going to work and everything's going to be in key. Let's open another one of these bad boys. Now, before I start loading into Fruity Slicer, I also want to do some stuff in Edison first, just to make it a lot easier and just to break down the sample a little bit more once it's in the slicer. So earlier I showed you how you could import a loop in there. Now I'm going to show you how we can mark up slices and use individual slices to work with the sample, right? Take me back again. Take me back again. So maybe I want to just use this part. This take part, right? So what I can do is go here and then click M and then just label it like 1. And that's your first marker. And then me maybe is another slice. And again, it doesn't have to perfectly be on the slice because we have that attack and the K tool that we can go back to using, so it's more smooth, right? So it doesn't have to be perfectly on the next section. So 2 maybe. Back again. And then maybe back gets its own slice. Just go up and find some markers. Again. And then this part for sure is going to be a slice, right? 4. And this part, 5. And then maybe here. Now, obviously, you don't have to do the entire sample, just whatever you need to use, but it helps if you have more markers loaded up, just in case you might want that slice. And then ooh. Back again. Back again. Back again. And this part there's a key change, so there's a new chord. Oh, and then here maybe. Oh. M11. Oh my God. If you don't like the shortcuts, you can also press this button. But M is like the fastest. If you just... Okay, I think that's enough samples for now. Just this last slice, and then let's just... Okay, and when you load it in, you'll automatically have these regions like assigned. So let's delete this. But okay, now remember how we played with the pitch of the first sample? So now it's no longer in D major because we dropped it down by like what? By like 500 cents, right? So this is like your first layer of melody, right? I think the next slice that we're using, like the next sample, is gonna sit on top of that. So we want it ideally in a higher pitch range. But how do you pitch it higher so that it's still in key? Well, ideally what you want to do is pitch it up 1 octave exactly, so exactly 12 semitones up, or 1,200 cents, right? So since this is minus 500, an octave above that would be negative 500 plus 1,200, so that would be 700, right? So you want to pitch this one up 700 just so it's in key with your original melody that we first added. Theoretically, if I play this loop right now, and I play the slices on my keyboard, it should be the same key. It sounds like it's in the right key because it doesn't sound like really, really off, but I just want to play around and find the right slices. Now I'm using my MKIII controller to play these keys, but you can just equally use your keyboard. So your Q key should be routed to your C5. So you play Q2, W3, E4, or ER. That should equate to like the keys that I'm playing on my keyboard right now. Just make sure this mode is selected. So I'm gonna just play around and see if I can come up with a melody. Sounds pretty cool, right? So it sounds a little bit messy, so obviously we're going to clean it up a little bit and then just EQ some of it and just make it sound like it's more put together. So let's start with our first layer of melody first. Sound underwater. We add some delay. Ping pong. And then this, I want it to be like a little bit more high pitched, so I want to EQ out some of like the mids and just leave most of the highs. And also take out some of like the really highs because otherwise it's just too like shrill. And then this free plugin that I use a lot now is called OTT, and it just really brings out like the highs. Here's without. It just brings it out a lot more. And just a little bit of reverb. I don't want too much. Something a little more subtle. And then actually I might want to use like a little more of a creative delay. So what I'm using is a granular delay. What it does is like it chops up like certain parts and then like plays it back, which is like more trippy and makes it sound a little whiter. The next thing I can do to make these melodies like even more like put together is I'm gonna route them to one track, and then I'm gonna add like an old like tape cassette type plugin to it. The plugin I use is called Sketch Cassette. It's like 20 bucks. It's really, I use it a lot. It just makes it sound more vintage. And then that's dope, right? Now we can add the drums. Here's the pattern that I have right now. To arrange this bad boy. Here's the arrangement. I'm play the beat from the top, but before I do that, if you guys learned something, if you guys picked up a new skill, if you guys found a new way to use Fruity Slicer, and you found it helpful, please hit the subscribe button, drop a comment, and keep making music, y'all. At the end of the day, man, I just really want to share like the skills that I've accumulated with the rest of the producer community. So if you guys are into that, be sure to show some support. But here's the beat.